The entire kingdom laughed when the little Omega knelt in the snow and whispered to a dying wolf. They called her cursed. They called her the Wolf Witch. They said no sane woman would touch a beast with blood on its teeth, but the wolf did not attack her. It lowered its enormous head into her hands, and when Lyra whispered that she would save him, the impossible happened. The wolf answered, not with a growl, with words inside her mind. They are coming for you. Lyra barely had time to understand before dozens of white wolves emerged from the forest. They did not surround the girl to hunt her. They surrounded her to protect her. And somewhere far beyond those trees, the Alpha King suddenly dropped to his knees. His wolf had felt her, his mate, the woman he had publicly rejected 5 years earlier. Kael Draven had spent years believing Lyra was dead. He was wrong. She had survived, but she had not survived alone. When Kael finally found her in the Forbidden Mountains, he expected to see the frightened Omega he had humiliated before his entire kingdom. Instead, he found a woman standing beneath the moon with 12 enormous white wolves kneeling at her feet. She looked at him without fear, without tears, without the slightest desire to return to the man who had broken her heart. Kael stepped toward her. Lyra stepped back. Please leave. I cannot. You rejected me. I know. You told everyone I was worthless. I know. Then why are you still here? Kael looked at the wolves, then at her. His voice broke. Because they brought me here for a reason. Before Lyra could answer, a small child stepped from behind the wolves. The boy looked at Kael. Then he whispered the one word that made the Alpha King's entire world collapse. Father. Kael froze. But Lyra's face became terrified, because she knew something Kael did not. That child was only the first secret the wolves had brought back to the kingdom. And behind the mountains, something far more dangerous was already waking. Something that had been waiting for Lyra for 5 years. Something that knew her real name. And when the first ancient wolf began to bow, Kael finally realized the woman he had rejected was never an ordinary Omega. She was the reason the wolves had been waiting. The first wolf arrived at Lyra Vale's cottage covered in blood. It came in the middle of the night when the entire kingdom of Valeria was buried beneath a violent winter storm. Snow slammed against the wooden walls. The wind screamed through the trees. The small fire inside Lyra's cottage had almost died when she heard the growl outside her door. She froze with a needle still between her fingers. Nobody visited her at night. Nobody except the wolves. She slowly stood and walked toward the door. Another growl came from the darkness. This one was weaker, almost painful. Lyra opened the door and freezing air rushed into the room. A massive white wolf stood in the snow. Blood covered one side of its body. One of its front legs was badly wounded. Its icy blue eyes looked directly into hers. Any other person would have screamed for the hunters. Lyra only whispered that it was hurt. The wolf did not move when she stepped outside. Lyra walked closer with nothing but a thin wool dress beneath her cloak. Snow covered her bare feet. The cold cut through her skin, but she ignored it. She slowly reached toward the injured animal. The moment her fingers touched its fur, something strange happened. The storm around her seemed to disappear. The wind became distant. The world became silent. Then, a voice entered her mind. It was deep and weak. It hurts. Lyra pulled her hand away in shock. Her heart began pounding. She looked around the empty forest. There was nobody there. The wolf was still staring at her. Lyra swallowed hard and whispered that it had spoken to her. The wolf lowered its head. Somehow she understood the answer. Yes. Lyra should have been frightened. Instead, she felt something inside her soften. She brought the wolf into her cottage and cleaned its wound beside the dying fire. The animal never tried to hurt her. It watched her quietly while she wrapped its leg with strips of cloth. When she finished, the wolf lowered its head beside her knees. Lyra looked down at him and smiled for the first time that week. She told him that he was stubborn. The wolf opened one icy blue eye as if offended. Lyra almost laughed. For a moment she forgot what the village called her. Witch, freak, cursed Omega, wolf girl. She had heard those names since childhood. She had learned to keep her head down and her voice quiet. She had learned that kindness was something dangerous when people did not understand it. By morning, the wolf was gone. Lyra stood outside, her cottage staring at the enormous paw prints disappearing into the forest. She followed them for several steps before stopping. Something about those tracks felt wrong. They were far too large for an ordinary wolf. She looked toward the trees and felt the strange sensation of being watched. "Come back if you need help," she whispered. Nothing answered. Lyra returned inside and tried to forget about it. But the wolf returned the following night, then again the night after that. Sometimes he came alone. Sometimes other white wolves followed him. They never attacked her. They never touched her food. They simply sat outside her cottage and watched her. The villagers eventually noticed. One morning, Lyra walked through the village carrying a basket of herbs. 3 women were standing beside the well. Their conversation stopped when they saw her. One of them smiled cruelly and called her the wolf witch. Another laughed and asked whether Lyra planned to marry one of her wolves. The others laughed with her. Lyra lowered her eyes and kept walking. She had learned not to fight words with words. But then a massive white wolf appeared at the edge of the village. It stood completely still. Its eyes were fixed on the women. The laughter disappeared. Nobody moved. The wolf turned and walked back toward the forest. Lyra watched it disappear between the trees. A strange warmth filled her chest. She did not understand why the wolves protected her. She did not know that they were not protecting a helpless Omega. They were guarding someone they had been waiting for. 3 weeks later, the annual moon gathering arrived. Every family in Valeria traveled to the royal palace. Warriors lined the roads. Noble families arrived in elaborate carriages. Silver banners bearing the royal wolf hung from the palace walls. Lyra did not want to go. Crowds made her uncomfortable. The palace made her feel smaller than ever. But every adult Omega from her village had been ordered to attend. So Lyra went. She wore a simple cream dress beneath her dark brown cloak. Her long dark hair fell loosely over her shoulders. She stayed near the edge of the crowd and tried to disappear. Then she saw him, Kael Draven. The Alpha King stood above the gathering on the royal platform. He was tall and broad-shouldered with shoulder-length black hair and cold steel gray eyes. His black royal armor reflected the firelight. He looked untouchable. Powerful, dangerous. Lyra had seen him from a distance before, but never this close. Then his eyes found hers. Everything inside Lyra went still. Kael stared at her as if he had forgotten something important. His expression changed for one brief moment. Confusion appeared in his eyes. Then something deeper. Something Lyra could not understand. Her chest suddenly became warm. A strange pull moved through her body. She did not know what it meant. Neither did she know that inside Kael's mind his wolf had just awakened. Kael's fingers tightened around the edge of the stone balcony. His wolf repeated the word, mate. Before Kael could understand what was happening, the wolves began to howl. One howl became 10. 10 became hundreds. The sound rolled through the mountains until the entire courtyard fell silent. The palace gates suddenly opened. A massive white wolf entered. Blood covered its shoulder. Lyra recognized it immediately. The wolf from her cottage. Guards raised their weapons. Someone shouted for them to kill it. Lyra stepped forward before she could stop herself. Don't. Every warrior froze. The wolf looked at her. Then it walked directly toward her. One step, then another. The crowd backed away. Lyra stood trembling as the enormous animal reached her. It lowered its head and pressed its forehead against her hand. A gasp swept through the courtyard. Lyra touched its fur. The voice returned inside her mind. Found you. Her eyes widened. What does that mean? The wolf turned toward Kael. Kael suddenly grabbed his chest. His wolf was screaming, "Mate." Kael looked at Lyra again. For one heartbeat, his cold expression disappeared. Lyra saw something in his eyes. Recognition. Hope rose inside her. Maybe he understood. Maybe after years of being mocked, she had finally found someone who could see her for what she truly was. Then the wolf began to transform. The courtyard erupted in screams. The enormous white wolf twisted beneath the falling snow. Fur disappeared. Bones shifted. The beast rose into the shape of a man. When the transformation ended, Kael Draven stood directly before Lyra, the Alpha King. The man whose eyes had just been searching for her. Lyra could barely breathe. Kael looked at her. His wolf was screaming the same word again and again. Mate. But another voice was moving through Kael's mind. A darker voice, a planted memory, a command. She is dangerous. Kael closed his eyes for a moment. Behind him, Darius Vane stepped closer. The beta spoke quietly. "Your Majesty, remember the curse." Kael opened his eyes. Lyra saw the warmth disappear. She whispered his name. Kael. His jaw tightened. He stepped toward her. "You are an Omega." Lyra swallowed. "I know. You have no place beside me." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you saying this?" Kael looked at her for one terrible moment. Then he forced the words from his mouth. "I reject you." Silence. Lyra stopped breathing. The crowd erupted into whispers and laughter. Seraphine stood beside the throne with a satisfied smile. Lyra looked at Kael one last time. His face was cold, but his hands were trembling. She turned and ran. She did not see Kael close his eyes in pain. She did not see Darius smile. She did not see Seraphine watching her escape. And she did not see the silver crescent beneath her collarbone begin to glow. Outside the palace, Lyra collapsed into the snow. She pressed a hand against her heart. Why did it hurt so much? A howl answered from the mountains. Then another, then hundreds. Lyra slowly lifted her head. The wolves were coming, not toward the palace, toward her. The largest white wolf stepped through the gates. Behind him came 12 more. They surrounded Lyra. Then one by one they lowered their heads. They bowed. Lyra stared through her tears. She had spent her entire life believing that she was the strange one, the cursed one, the unwanted one. But now the wolves were telling her something different. They were not ashamed of her. They were waiting for her. And beneath her skin, the ancient silver mark burned brighter than ever before. Lyra did not remember how she reached the forest. She only remembered running. Her lungs burned with every breath. Snow struck her face and melted against her tears. The palace lights disappeared behind the trees until there was nothing left except darkness and the sound of her own broken breathing. She kept moving even when her legs began to shake. She did not know where she was going. She only knew she could not stay there. Not after Kael had looked into her eyes and rejected her before the entire kingdom. Not after she had finally felt something that resembled belonging only to have it ripped away in front of everyone. She stumbled beside a frozen stream and fell to her knees. Her hands sank into the snow. For several seconds she could not move. Her chest rose and fell violently. Then a whisper escaped her lips. "Why did you look at me like that?" She remembered Kael's eyes before the rejection. There had been something inside them. Something warm. Something frightened. He had looked at her as though he knew her even though they had never spoken before. Lyra wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "Why did you make me believe you knew me?" A low growl came from behind her. Lyra turned. The enormous white wolf stood between the trees, the same wolf that had come to her cottage, the same wolf that had bowed to her outside the palace. Lyra shook her head. "Please leave me alone." The wolf did not move. I mean it. Still nothing. It slowly approached her and stopped a few steps away. Its icy eyes were fixed on hers. Lyra expected another voice in her mind. Instead, she heard something stranger. A feeling. A wave of grief that was not hers. Then fear. Then anger. The emotions rushed through her so strongly that she pressed both hands against her temples. "What are you showing me?" The wolf lowered its head. A single thought entered her mind. He did not choose those words. Lyra froze. "What?" The wolf looked toward the distant palace. "The king is bound." Lyra slowly stood. Bound by what? The wolf turned toward the darkness. Before it could answer, a sharp sound echoed through the trees. An arrow struck the trunk beside Lyra's head. She gasped. Another arrow flew past her shoulder. Then came the distant sound of men shouting, "Find the Omega." Lyra's blood turned cold. The wolf lunged forward. A second arrow struck its shoulder. Lyra screamed, "Run!" The wolf did not run. Instead, it stepped between her and the hunters. Lyra looked at the blood spreading across its white fur. "No!" She grabbed its neck. "You cannot fight them." The wolf looked into her eyes. "Then run." Lyra ran. She disappeared between the trees as the wolves behind her exploded into motion. Growls shook the forest. Men shouted. Steel clashed against claws. Lyra did not look back. She followed the narrow path toward her cottage while the storm grew heavier around her. She reached the wooden door and pushed it open. Something was wrong. Everything was scattered. Her chair was overturned. Her blankets were ripped apart. The small wooden chest that belonged to her mother had been smashed open. Lyra stopped in the doorway. Someone had searched the cottage. She slowly stepped inside. Her hands trembled as she searched through the broken belongings. Nothing was missing that she could recognize. Then she noticed a loose floorboard near the fireplace. She dropped to her knees and pulled it upward. Beneath it was an old leather journal. She had never seen it before. Her mother's handwriting covered the first page. Lyra's heart stopped. She whispered her mother's name. Then she began reading. The first sentence made her blood run cold. "If you are reading this, then they have finally found you." Lyra turned the page. "You must never trust the royal family." Her breathing became shallow. Another page. "The blood inside you is not what they told you." Lyra stared at the words. Another page. The Wolf Queen did not die. Her fingers tightened around the journal. The Wolf Queen, a name from ancient legends, a woman who supposedly ruled every wolf in the northern mountains centuries ago, a woman who disappeared after the royal bloodline betrayed her. Lyra shook her head. This cannot be real. A sound came from outside. Footsteps, several people. Lyra closed the journal and stood. The cottage door opened. Seraphine entered. She wore a dark royal cloak that was completely untouched by the snow. 2 guards stood behind her. Lyra stepped backward. "What do you want?" Seraphine looked around the ruined cottage. Then she smiled. "I wanted to see where the Wolf Witch lived." Lyra's eyes hardened. "You searched my home." Seraphine walked toward her. "You should have disappeared after the rejection." "You followed me." "Of course." Lyra felt something cold settle inside her. "You knew this would happen." Seraphine stopped. Her eyes moved toward Lyra's collarbone. The silver mark beneath Lyra's skin was still faintly visible. Seraphine's face changed. For the first time, Lyra saw fear. Seraphine whispered, "So it has awakened." Lyra stared at her. "What has awakened?" Seraphine said nothing. Lyra stepped closer. "You know what this is." Seraphine recovered her smile. "You have no idea what you are carrying." Lyra's heart pounded. "Tell me." "You would not survive the truth." The words terrified Lyra more than any threat. She looked at the guards, then at Seraphine. "Why does everyone keep saying I am dangerous?" Seraphine leaned closer. "Because your mother was dangerous too." Lyra stopped breathing. "What did you say?" Seraphine smiled. Then she turned toward the door, asked the wolves. She left. Lyra stood frozen. Her mother's journal trembled in her hands. She opened it again. Near the final page was a drawing. A woman surrounded by 12 white wolves. Beneath the drawing was a single sentence. "When the 12 wolves bow to you, the bloodline has awakened." Lyra remembered the palace. 12 wolves, all bowing before her. A terrible realization moved through her. The wolves had not appeared because they felt sorry for her. They had recognized her. A crack of thunder shook the cottage. Lyra grabbed the journal and ran through the back door. She entered the forest without knowing where she was going. The wolves found her before sunrise. 12 white wolves appeared between the trees. The largest one stepped forward. Lyra looked at them through exhausted eyes. "You knew." The wolves remained silent. "You knew who I was." The oldest wolf lowered its head. Then something strange happened. The 12 wolves formed a circle around her. Their bodies began to glow beneath the moonlight. The snow beneath Lyra's feet shifted. Ancient symbols appeared beneath the ice. Lyra looked down, a crescent moon surrounded by a crown. Her mother's symbol, her bloodline, her destiny. The forest suddenly filled with a deep voice. Not from one wolf. From all of them. "Come with us." Lyra looked back toward the village. Smoke was rising above the trees. Her cottage was burning. Her old life was disappearing before her eyes. She turned toward the wolves. "What happens if I go?" The oldest wolf looked at her. "You learn why they feared you." Lyra swallowed. Then she stepped forward. The wolves turned toward the forbidden mountains. Lyra followed. She did not know that she was leaving behind the only home she had ever known. She did not know that the palace believed her dead already. And she did not know that deep inside the royal castle, Kael Draven had just awakened from a nightmare. He was standing beside his bed, with his hand pressed against his chest. His wolf was howling inside his mind. "She is alive." Kael's face went pale. Then he heard something else. A tiny voice. A child's voice. Clear enough to destroy every lie he had believed. "Father." Kael froze. The room became completely silent. He slowly looked toward the window. Beyond the palace walls, the northern mountains were covered in snow. His wolf whispered one final truth. "Our son is alive." And somewhere beyond those mountains, Lyra walked deeper into the darkness with 12 white wolves beside her. She was no longer running from the palace. She was walking toward the truth. The forbidden forest swallowed Lyra before sunrise. The 12 white wolves moved through the trees without making a sound. Their paws barely disturbed the fresh snow. Lyra followed behind them with her mother's journal pressed tightly against her chest. She was exhausted. Her clothes were still damp from the storm. Her heart was still bleeding from Kael's rejection. Yet something inside her had changed. She was no longer walking like a frightened girl searching for a place to hide. She was walking like someone who had finally realized that the entire world had been hiding something from her. The oldest wolf led her toward a narrow passage between two cliffs. The opening was almost invisible beneath thick layers of snow. Lyra would have walked past it if the wolf had not stopped. It turned and looked at her. Then it touched its nose against the stone wall. A deep rumble moved through the mountain. The snow began sliding away. Ancient symbols appeared beneath the ice. Lyra stepped closer. The same silver crescent she had seen beneath her skin was carved into the stone. She reached toward it. The mountain opened. A cold breath escaped from the darkness. Lyra stared into the hidden passage. "Where are you taking me?" The oldest wolf looked at her. "Home." The word struck her strangely. Home. She had never felt that word belonged to her. The wolf entered. Lyra followed. The passage descended deep beneath the mountain. The walls were covered with paintings of wolves and queens and battles that looked older than the kingdom itself. Some paintings showed a woman standing beneath a silver moon. Others showed warriors kneeling before her. Every woman looked different except for one detail. Their eyes were the same as Lyra's. She stopped before the largest painting. A woman with long dark hair stood surrounded by 12 enormous white wolves. A silver crown rested above her head. In her arms she carried a newborn child. Lyra's fingers trembled. "Who is she?" The wolf beside her lowered its head. "Your blood remembers." Lyra stared at the child in the painting. Something inside her chest tightened. She did not understand why. Then the child moved, not in the painting. Inside her mind, a tiny heartbeat, a warmth beneath her stomach. Lyra suddenly became dizzy. She grabbed the wall. The wolves surrounded her. She closed her eyes. The feeling became stronger. A heartbeat, then another. Lyra opened her eyes in terror. No. She pressed both hands against her stomach. The wolves remained silent. Lyra shook her head. This cannot be happening. She had been sick for weeks. She had blamed the stress, the rejection, the sleepless nights. She had thought her body was simply breaking beneath the weight of everything that had happened. But now she knew. She was pregnant. The realization destroyed the little strength she had left. She sank onto the cold stone floor. Tears filled her eyes. Kael. His name escaped her before she could stop it. She remembered the first moment their eyes met. She remembered the warmth. She remembered the way his wolf had looked at her. Then she remembered the rejection. I cannot let them find you. Her hand remained over her stomach. You will never grow up in that palace. One of the wolves lowered itself beside her. Lyra looked into its icy eyes. What am I supposed to do? The answer came softly. Protect the heir. Lyra stared at the wolf. The heir? The wolf did not explain. It did not need to. Lyra understood. The child inside her was not only hers. He carried Kael's blood. He carried royal blood. And if Seraphine and Darius already feared Lyra, then they would fear her child even more. Lyra wiped her tears. Then nobody will know. She stood slowly. I will protect him. The wolves began moving again. They led her deeper into the sanctuary. At the end of the passage stood a vast chamber beneath the mountain. A warm fire burned in the center even though nobody had lit it. Ancient silver lamps glowed along the walls. There were blankets, food, water, herbs, everything a person could need. Lyra stared. How long has this place been waiting? The oldest wolf looked at her. Since your mother left. Lyra's breath caught. My mother lived here? The wolf turned toward a stone table. There was a small wooden box resting on it. Lyra approached. Inside was a silver pendant. She recognized it immediately. It was the pendant her mother had worn every day of her childhood. Lyra touched it. A vision exploded through her mind. Her mother stood in the same chamber. She was younger. She was crying. A newborn baby was wrapped in her arms. Lyra. Behind her stood a wounded white wolf. Then the vision changed. Men entered the chamber. Royal guards! Her mother turned toward them. One man shouted, Take the child! Her mother screamed, No! She ran. The vision shattered. Lyra fell backward. The pendant slipped from her fingers. Her breathing became ragged. My mother was here? The oldest wolf stepped closer. She escaped with you. Lyra looked up. Then why did she leave me? The wolf remained silent. That silence hurt. Lyra looked toward the dark passage. Is she alive? No answer came. Her heart began racing. Tell me. The wolf lowered its head. Not yet. Lyra stared at it. What does that mean? Before the wolf could answer, another vision struck her. A palace, a ritual chamber, Kael standing inside a circle of blood, Darius beside him, Seraphine watching. Kael looked terrified. A dark symbol was carved into the floor. Darius held a silver blade. Then Lyra saw herself, standing across from Kael. She heard his voice. I reject you. But this time she saw what had happened before those words. Darius had placed his hand against Kael's head. Dark magic had entered his mind. Kael had fought it, he had tried to resist, his wolf had screamed. Then the vision ended. Lyra opened her eyes. She was crying. He did not want to reject me. The wolves said nothing. Lyra looked down. That does not change what happened. She knew that. She could forgive the curse one day, maybe, but she could not erase the humiliation. She could not erase the loneliness. She could not erase the years she had spent believing nobody wanted her. She placed a hand over her stomach. I will protect my child. Her voice became stronger, even from his father. Far away in the royal palace, Kael stood before the same ancient records that Darius had spent years hiding from him. His hands shook as he turned another page. There it was, the symbol, the same crescent, the same crown, the same 12 wolves. Kael stared at the ancient words. When the Wolf Queen awakens, her firstborn will unite the two royal bloodlines. His face went pale. His wolf spoke inside his mind. Our child. Kael closed his eyes. Then he heard the tiny voice again. Father. This time there was no doubt. Kael dropped the ancient book. He turned toward the northern mountains. I will find you. His voice broke. I swear I will find you. But before he could leave the chamber, the palace doors exploded open. Darius entered. His face was calm, almost too calm. Where are you going? Kael looked at him. To find Lyra. Darius smiled. You cannot. Kael's eyes narrowed. Why? Darius stepped closer. Because the girl you rejected is not the girl you think she is. Kael's expression hardened. Darius lowered his voice. She is carrying something that belongs to the throne. Kael froze. Darius smiled. The Wolf Queen's heir. At that exact moment, deep beneath the northern mountains, Lyra felt the child inside her move for the first time. She gasped. A tiny silver light appeared beneath her hand. Every wolf in the sanctuary lowered its head. Then the ancient doors behind them began to open. Something was coming. Something Lyra had been searching for all her life. And when she saw the figure standing beyond those doors, she forgot how to breathe. A woman stood in the darkness, older, pale, with silver hair falling around her shoulders. Her eyes were exactly like Lyra's. The woman whispered one word. Lyra. Lyra stared at her. The pendant fell from her hand. She knew that voice. She had not heard it since she was a child. Her mother was alive. Lyra could not move. For 5 years she had carried one memory inside her like a wound that refused to close. Her mother's face disappearing into a storm. Her mother's voice telling her to run. The sound of hunters behind them. Then silence. After that night, Lyra had believed she was alone in the world. She had grown up with questions that had no answers. She had spent years wondering whether her mother had suffered before she died. She had imagined her final moments so many times that the memories had begun to feel real. Now the woman standing beyond the ancient doorway was looking directly at her with the same green eyes Lyra saw every morning in the mirror. Lyra took one step forward, then another. Her lips trembled. Mother? The woman covered her mouth. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Lyra. That single word shattered the wall Lyra had built around herself. She ran. Her mother opened her arms, and Lyra crashed into them. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. They simply held each other while years of grief poured out in silence. Lyra buried her face against her mother's shoulder. She was no longer the Wolf Queen. She was no longer the strange Omega who had survived the palace. She was a daughter who had spent half her life believing she had lost the person she loved most. You were dead. Her mother held her tighter. I know. You were dead. I wanted you to believe that. Lyra pulled away. Anger suddenly replaced grief. Why? Her mother looked at her through tears. Because if they knew you were alive, they would have killed you. Lyra shook her head. You left me alone. I left you alive. The words silenced her. Her mother reached toward Lyra's face. I watched you from far away. Lyra stepped back. Then why did you never come for me? Because every road leading to you was being watched. Her mother looked toward the wolves. They knew the truth. I knew the truth. The only person who could not know was you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears again. What truth? Her mother looked at the silver mark beneath Lyra's collarbone. You are the last living wolf queen. Lyra had heard those words before, but hearing them from her mother felt different. Why did they fear me? Her mother took a slow breath. Because the wolves do not obey the crown. Lyra stared at her. They obey the queen. The ancient chamber seemed to become colder. Her mother continued. Long before the current royal family ruled Valyria, there was another bloodline. The wolf queens protected the northern territories. They could hear every wolf. They could feel every wound. They could call entire packs with a single thought. The oldest wolf led her toward a narrow passage between two cliffs. The opening was almost invisible beneath thick layers of snow. Lyra would have walked past it if the wolf had not stopped. It turned and looked at her. Then it touched its nose against the stone wall. A deep rumble moved through the mountain. The snow began sliding away. Ancient symbols appeared beneath the ice. Lyra stepped closer. The same silver crescent she had seen beneath her skin was carved into the stone. She reached toward it. The mountain opened. A cold breath escaped from the darkness. Lyra stared into the hidden passage. Where are you taking me? The oldest wolf looked at her. Home. The word struck her strangely. Home. She had never felt that word belonged to her. The wolf entered. Lyra followed. The passage descended deep beneath the mountain. The walls were covered with paintings of wolves and queens and battles that looked older than the kingdom itself. Some paintings showed a woman standing beneath a silver moon. Others showed warriors kneeling before her. Every woman looked different except for one detail. Their eyes were the same as Lyra's. She stopped before the largest painting. A woman with long dark hair stood surrounded by 12 enormous white wolves. A silver crown rested above her head. In her arms she carried a newborn child. Lyra's fingers trembled. Who is she? The wolf beside her lowered its head. Your blood remembers. Lyra stared at the child in the painting. Something inside her chest tightened. She did not understand why. Then the child moved, not in the painting. Inside her mind, a tiny heartbeat, a warmth beneath her stomach. Lyra suddenly became dizzy. She grabbed the wall. The wolves surrounded her. She closed her eyes. The feeling became stronger. A heartbeat, then another. Lyra opened her eyes in terror. No. She pressed both hands against her stomach. The wolves remained silent. Lyra shook her head. This cannot be happening. She had been sick for weeks. She had blamed the stress, the rejection, the sleepless nights. She had thought her body was simply breaking beneath the weight of everything that had happened. But now she knew. She was pregnant. The realization destroyed the little strength she had left. She sank onto the cold stone floor. Tears filled her eyes. Kael. His name escaped her before she could stop it. She remembered the first moment their eyes met. She remembered the warmth. She remembered the way his wolf had looked at her. Then she remembered the rejection. I cannot let them find you. Her hand remained over her stomach. You will never grow up in that palace. One of the wolves lowered itself beside her. Lyra looked into its icy eyes. What am I supposed to do? The answer came softly. Protect the heir. Lyra stared at the wolf. The heir? The wolf did not explain. It did not need to. Lyra understood. The child inside her was not only hers. He carried Kael's blood. He carried royal blood. And if Seraphine and Darius already feared Lyra, then they would fear her child even more. Lyra wiped her tears. Then nobody will know. She stood slowly. I will protect him. The wolves began moving again. They led her deeper into the sanctuary. At the end of the passage stood a vast chamber beneath the mountain. A warm fire burned in the center even though nobody had lit it. Ancient silver lamps glowed along the walls. There were blankets, food, water, herbs, everything a person could need. Lyra stared. How long has this place been waiting? The oldest wolf looked at her. Since your mother left. Lyra's breath caught. My mother lived here? The wolf turned toward a stone table. There was a small wooden box resting on it. Lyra approached. Inside was a silver pendant. She recognized it immediately. It was the pendant her mother had worn every day of her childhood. Lyra touched it. A vision exploded through her mind. Her mother stood in the same chamber. She was younger. She was crying. A newborn baby was wrapped in her arms. Lyra. Behind her stood a wounded white wolf. Then the vision changed. Men entered the chamber. Royal guards! Her mother turned toward them. One man shouted, Take the child! Her mother screamed, No! She ran. The vision shattered. Lyra fell backward. The pendant slipped from her fingers. Her breathing became ragged. My mother was here? The oldest wolf stepped closer. She escaped with you. Lyra looked up. Then why did she leave me? The wolf remained silent. That silence hurt. Lyra looked toward the dark passage. Is she alive? No answer came. Her heart began racing. Tell me. The wolf lowered its head. Not yet. Lyra stared at it. What does that mean? Before the wolf could answer, another vision struck her. A palace. A ritual chamber, Kael standing inside a circle of blood, Darius beside him, Seraphine watching. Kael looked terrified. A dark symbol was carved into the floor. Darius held a silver blade. Then Lyra saw herself, standing across from Kael. She heard his voice. I reject you. But this time she saw what had happened before those words. Darius had placed his hand against Kael's head. Dark magic had entered his mind. Kael had fought it. He had tried to resist. His wolf had screamed. Then the vision ended. Lyra opened her eyes. She was crying. He did not want to reject me. The wolves said nothing. Lyra looked down. That does not change what happened. She knew that. She could forgive the curse one day, maybe, but she could not erase the humiliation. She could not erase the loneliness. She could not erase the years she had spent believing nobody wanted her. She placed a hand over her stomach. I will protect my child. Her voice became stronger, even from his father. Far away in the royal palace, Kael stood before the same ancient records that Darius had spent years hiding from him. His hands shook as he turned another page. There it was. The symbol, the same crescent, the same crown, the same 12 wolves. Kael stared at the ancient words. When the Wolf Queen awakens, her firstborn will unite the two royal bloodlines. His face went pale. His wolf spoke inside his mind. Our child. Kael closed his eyes. Then he heard the tiny voice again. Father. This time there was no doubt. Kael dropped the ancient book. He turned toward the northern mountains. I will find you. His voice broke. I swear I will find you. But before he could leave the chamber, the palace doors exploded open. Darius entered. His face was calm, almost too calm. Where are you going? Kael looked at him. To find Lyra. Darius smiled. You cannot. Kael's eyes narrowed. Why? Darius stepped closer. Because the girl you rejected is not the girl you think she is. Kael's expression hardened. Darius lowered his voice. She is carrying something that belongs to the throne. Kael froze. Darius smiled. The Wolf Queen's heir. At that exact moment, deep beneath the northern mountains, Lyra felt the child inside her move for the first time. She gasped. A tiny silver light appeared beneath her hand. Every wolf in the sanctuary lowered its head. Then the ancient doors behind them began to open. Something was coming. Something Lyra had been searching for all her life. And when she saw the figure standing beyond those doors, she forgot how to breathe. A woman stood in the darkness, older, pale, with silver hair falling around her shoulders. Her eyes were exactly like Lyra's. The woman whispered one word, Lyra. Lyra stared at her. The pendant fell from her hand. She knew that voice. She had not heard it since she was a child. Her mother was alive. Lyra could not move. For 5 years, she had carried one memory inside her like a wound that refused to close. Her mother's face disappearing into a storm. Her mother's voice telling her to run. The sound of hunters behind them. Then silence. After that night, Lyra had believed she was alone in the world. She had grown up with questions that had no answers. She had spent years wondering whether her mother had suffered before she died. She had imagined her final moments so many times that the memories had begun to feel real. Now the woman standing beyond the ancient doorway was looking directly at her with the same green eyes Lyra saw every morning in the mirror. Lyra took one step forward, then another. Her lips trembled. Mother? The woman covered her mouth. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Lyra. That single word shattered the wall Lyra had built around herself. She ran. Her mother opened her arms, and Lyra crashed into them. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. They simply held each other while years of grief poured out in silence. Lyra buried her face against her mother's shoulder. She was no longer the Wolf Queen. She was no longer the strange Omega who had survived the palace. She was a daughter who had spent half her life believing she had lost the person she loved most. You were dead. Her mother held her tighter. I know. You were dead. I wanted you to believe that. Lyra pulled away. Anger suddenly replaced grief. Why? Her mother looked at her through tears. Because if they knew you were alive, they would have killed you. Lyra shook her head. You left me alone. I left you alive. The words silenced her. Her mother reached toward Lyra's face. I watched you from far away. Lyra stepped back. Then why did you never come for me? Because every road leading to you was being watched. Her mother looked toward the wolves. They knew the truth. I knew the truth. The only person who could not know was you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears again. What truth? Her mother looked at the silver mark beneath Lyra's collarbone. You are the last living Wolf Queen. Lyra had heard those words before, but hearing them from her mother felt different. Why did they fear me? Her mother took a slow breath. Because the wolves do not obey the crown. Lyra stared at her. They obey the queen. The ancient chamber seemed to become colder. Her mother continued. Long before the current royal family ruled Valyria, there was another bloodline. The Wolf Queens protected the northern territories. They could hear every wolf. They could feel every wound. They could call entire packs with a single thought. The royal family feared that power. Lyra looked toward the 12 white wolves. And my family? Your family protected the kingdom anyway. Her mother's expression darkened. Until one king decided that he wanted the wolves for himself. Lyra understood. That was when the betrayal happened. Her mother nodded. They tried to destroy our bloodline. Who? Darius's family. Lyra's heart tightened. Darius. He has served the royal family for generations. Every generation of his family has known about the Wolf Queen. They have spent centuries waiting for the bloodline to disappear. Lyra looked toward the floor. And Seraphine? Her mother became silent. That silence told Lyra everything. She knew. Yes. She knew who I was. Yes. Then why did she let me live? Her mother looked toward the distant mountains. Because she needed you to awaken. Lyra's eyes narrowed. For what? Her mother did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked at Lyra's stomach. The silver light beneath Lyra's hand had not disappeared. Her mother whispered, "Because of the child." Lyra instinctively covered her stomach. What does my child have to do with them? Everything. The wolves moved closer. Her mother knelt beside Lyra. The child inside you carries both bloodlines. Lyra looked down. He is half Wolf Queen and half Alpha King. Her mother nodded. That has never happened before. Lyra's heart began racing. What does that mean? It means your child could unite the wolves and the royal throne. Lyra looked toward the wolves. Or destroy both. Her mother touched her hand. That is why they will come. A distant howl echoed through the mountain, then another. The wolves suddenly lifted their heads. Lyra felt something through their minds. Fear. Not ordinary fear. War. She stood. What is happening? The oldest wolf turned toward the entrance. They found the sanctuary. Lyra's heart stopped. Her mother grabbed her hand. We have to leave. Where? North. Why? Because the palace is already moving. A thunderous sound shook the mountain. Stone dust fell from the ceiling. The ancient sanctuary trembled. Then came the sound of steel. Men were entering the passage. Lyra looked at her mother. You knew this would happen. Her mother nodded. I knew it would happen eventually. You brought me here knowing they might follow. I brought you here because you needed to know who you were before they found you. Another explosion shook the chamber. The wolves began growling. Lyra felt the child move inside her. A strange silver warmth spread through her body. She looked at her mother. What happens now? Her mother smiled sadly. Now you stop running. The word struck Lyra harder than any weapon. For years she had survived by disappearing. She had hidden in a village. She had hidden in a forest. She had hidden from the palace. She had hidden her own heart. But now there was nowhere left to run. Lyra stepped toward the passage. Her mother caught her arm. You are not ready. Lyra looked at her. I was never given the chance to be ready. Her mother stared at the woman standing before her. For the first time, she saw the daughter she had protected from a distance. Not the frightened child she had left behind. Not the helpless Omega the kingdom had mocked. A queen. Lyra walked into the passage. The 12 wolves followed. The first soldier appeared around the corner. He stopped when he saw her. His face went pale. The Wolf Queen. Behind him, more soldiers raised their weapons. Lyra did not move. The soldier shouted, "Take her alive!" The wolves lunged. The passage erupted into chaos. Steel struck fur. Men screamed. Snow poured through the broken entrance. Lyra stood at the center of the storm with her mother beside her. She raised one hand. Every wolf stopped. The soldiers froze. Lyra looked at them. Leave. The command was quiet. Yet the entire mountain seemed to hear it. The soldiers dropped their weapons. Some ran. Others fell to their knees. Lyra stared at her own hand. She had not commanded them. Not exactly. The wolves had simply listened. Her mother smiled. You finally heard them. Lyra looked at the wolves. For the first time, she understood that their voices were not coming from outside her. They were coming through her. She could feel every heartbeat. Every wound, every fear, every distant howl. Then one howl reached her that was different from all the others. It came from the south, from the palace. Lyra closed her eyes. She saw through a wolf's eyes, a black horse crossing the snow, a man riding alone. Black hair, steel-gray eyes, Kael. He was riding toward the mountains. Lyra opened her eyes. Her heart betrayed her with one painful beat. Her mother noticed. You still love him. Lyra looked away. I loved the man I thought he was. Her mother shook her head. You still love him. Lyra said nothing. Far away, Kael reached the northern border. His wolf was restless. He could feel her. For the first time in 5 years, he knew she was alive. He rode harder. But he did not know what waited for him. He did not know that Lyra carried his child. He did not know that the woman he had rejected was the last wolf queen. And he certainly did not know that the people closest to his throne had been lying to him for years. Inside the sanctuary, Lyra looked toward the southern mountains. She felt Kael coming. Her mother stood beside her. Are you ready to see him? Lyra's eyes hardened. No. Then she placed one hand over her stomach. But my child deserves to know the truth. A moment later, the wolves began howling. Not in warning, not in fear, in recognition. Kael had crossed into the forbidden forest, and for the first time since the rejection, Lyra knew she would have to face the man who had broken her heart. But this time she would not stand before him as the helpless Omega everyone had mocked. She would stand before him as the woman he had never truly seen, the Wolf Queen, and the mother of his hidden heir. Kael entered the forbidden forest alone. The snow was falling harder now. It covered the narrow trail behind him and erased every footprint he left. His black horse moved carefully between the ancient trees while his steel-gray eyes searched the darkness. He had dismissed every guard who tried to follow him. He had ignored Darius. He had ignored the council. He had ignored every warning that entering the northern forest alone was suicide. None of it mattered anymore. For 5 years he had believed Lyra was dead. Now his wolf could feel her presence somewhere beyond the mountains. Every step toward her made his chest tighter. He had imagined this moment hundreds of times without realizing it. Sometimes he imagined finding her angry. Sometimes he imagined her crying. Sometimes he imagined her forgiving him. But he had never imagined what he would actually say. Sorry felt too small. Forgive me felt selfish. I love you felt cruel after everything he had done. The truth was worse. He had no words that could repair 5 years of pain. His horse suddenly stopped. Kael looked ahead. A white wolf stood in the middle of the trail. Its icy eyes watched him. Kael slowly dismounted. I am not here to fight. The wolf did not move. Kael took one step forward. I am looking for Lyra. The wolf turned and walked away. Kael followed. The forest became strangely quiet. No birds, no wind. Only the soft crunch of snow beneath his boots. Then the trees opened into a wide clearing. Kael stopped. Lyra stood there. She was not wearing the simple cream dress he remembered. She wore a long, dark cloak that moved around her ankles. Her long brown hair fell freely over her shoulders. Her face was older, stronger. There was still softness in her eyes, but it no longer came from innocence. It came from surviving things that should have destroyed her. Kael forgot how to breathe. For 5 years he had carried the memory of a girl running through the snow. Now that girl was standing before him, alive, beautiful, and looking at him as though he were a stranger. Lyra. She did not answer. Kael took another step. She stepped backward. That single movement broke something inside him. He stopped. I thought you were dead. Lyra's voice was quiet. You believed what they told you. I searched. For how long? Kael had no answer. Lyra's eyes hardened. How many days? He looked down. Not enough. Her expression changed for a moment. Then the wall returned. You should go. Kael shook his head. I cannot. You rejected me. I know. You told the entire kingdom I was unworthy. I know. You watched them laugh. Kael closed his eyes. I remember. Then why are you here? His voice became raw. Because I was wrong. Lyra looked at him. You are the Alpha King. You do not get to be wrong? I did. You do not get to decide that 5 years later. I know. Silence stretched between them. Then Lyra heard something behind her. A small voice. Mother. Kael froze. Lyra turned. A little boy stepped from behind the trees. He was 5 years old. His dark hair fell across his forehead. His skin was pale from the cold. His eyes were emerald green. Around his neck hung a small silver pendant. Kael stared. Something inside him cracked. The boy looked at him without fear. Kael's wolf went completely silent. Then one word came from inside his mind. Son. Kael's face drained of color. He looked at Lyra. Then at the child. Then back at Lyra. No. Lyra said nothing. Kael slowly stepped toward the boy. What is his name? Rowan. Kael repeated the name softly. Rowan. The child studied him. Then he tilted his head. You are the man from Mother's dreams. Lyra's face tightened. Rowan. The boy looked at her. What? Go with Nyra. Rowan frowned. But Mother. Please. The ancient white wolf appeared beside him. Rowan took her hand. Before leaving, he looked back at Kael. Something strange passed through the boy's eyes. Kael felt it. A connection. A pull, he whispered. Is he mine? Lyra stared at him. 5 years of silence stood between them. Then she answered. Yes. Kael stopped breathing. The forest disappeared. The snow disappeared. There was only that one word. Yes. His knees almost gave way. He looked toward the place where Rowan had disappeared. My son. Lyra said nothing. Kael's eyes filled with tears. I missed everything. Yes. His birth. Yes. His first word. Yes. His voice broke. His first steps. Lyra looked away. You were not there. Kael pressed a hand against his chest. I would have been. No. He looked at her. You would not have. The truth silenced him. Lyra stepped closer. You rejected me because they told you I was dangerous. I was cursed. You still rejected me. I know. You let them make you believe that I was a threat. I know. You never came looking for the truth. Kael's eyes filled with regret. I was afraid. Lyra stared at him. You were afraid of me? No. He looked directly into her eyes. I was afraid of what loving you would cost. Lyra's expression softened for one heartbeat. Then she turned away. You already paid the price. Kael looked toward Rowan. I did not know about him. You were never supposed to. Why? Because the moment they knew there was an heir, they would come for him. Kael's face hardened. Who? Lyra looked toward the distant mountains. Darius. Kael went still. What does he have to do with this? Lyra's voice lowered. He knew who I was before you did. Kael stared at her. How? My mother told me. Your mother? Lyra nodded. She is alive. Kael's eyes widened. The woman everyone believed died? She survived. Kael looked at the wolves surrounding the clearing. Suddenly, the pieces began connecting. The wolves, the hidden sanctuary, the silver mark, Rowan, the ancient bloodline. He looked at Lyra. What are you? Lyra hesitated. Then she pulled her cloak aside. The silver crescent beneath her collarbone shone beneath her skin. Kael stared. His wolf recognized it. The symbol from the ancient royal records. The symbol of the lost bloodline. The Wolf Queen. Lyra nodded. Kael took a slow breath. All those years ago, the palace had called her an Omega. Weak, unworthy. Cursed. They had been wrong. She had been the one person in the kingdom the wolves had been waiting for. Kael looked at her with something close to awe. You are the last Wolf Queen. Lyra's eyes remained steady. Yes. Kael looked at Rowan. And he is the heir. Yes. His voice became quiet. Does the kingdom know? No. Then they must never know. Lyra looked at him. They already know. Kael's expression changed. What? Before Lyra could answer, a howl echoed across the forest. Then another, then dozens. Nira suddenly appeared with Rowan. The child's face was frightened. Mother! Lyra rushed toward him. What happened? Rowan pointed toward the southern trees. They are coming. Kael drew his sword. Who? Rowan looked at him. The men from your palace. Kael's blood turned cold. His grip tightened around the sword. Darius. A distant horn sounded, then another. The wolves began growling. Kael stepped beside Lyra. She looked at him. I do not need you to protect me. I know. Then why are you standing there? Kael looked at the approaching darkness. Because I should have stood beside you 5 years ago. Lyra said nothing. The first soldiers appeared between the trees. Hundreds of them. Royal armor. Royal weapons. Royal banners. Kael stared at the army. Then he saw Darius riding at the front. The beta smiled when he saw Lyra. But his eyes immediately moved toward Rowan. His smile became darker. There he is. Kael stepped in front of the child. Darius laughed. Your Majesty. Kael's voice was cold. Take one more step and you die. Darius looked at Lyra. She never told you. Kael's eyes narrowed. Told me what? Darius smiled. The child is not the only secret she has been hiding. Lyra's face went pale. Darius raised his hand. The soldiers lifted their weapons, and behind them stood Seraphine, wearing the royal crown. Kael stared at her. His entire body went still. Seraphine smiled. Come home, Kael. Then she looked at Lyra. And bring the heir with you. The wolves began to howl. Lyra stepped forward. For the first time, Kael saw something terrifying in her eyes. Not fear. Power. She lifted her hand. Every white wolf in the forest turned toward the army, and Lyra whispered one command. Protect my son. The moment Lyra raised her hand, the forest changed. The wolves moved first. 12 enormous white bodies exploded through the snow with terrifying speed. Their paws struck the frozen ground like thunder. Royal soldiers lifted their weapons, but the formation shattered before they could strike. One wolf leaped over a fallen tree and crashed into a warrior's shield. Another tore a spear from a soldier's hands and threw it into the snow. The men shouted and stumbled backward as more wolves appeared between the trees. Their white fur blurred through the storm until it seemed as though the entire forest had come alive. Rowan stood behind Lyra. She could feel his fear. She could also feel the wolves. Every heartbeat reached her mind. Every movement. Every wound. Their emotions flowed through her like a river. She could feel which soldier carried a blade. She could feel which wolf had been injured. She could even feel the location of every enemy hidden among the trees. For the first time, she understood the power her mother had tried to hide. She was not commanding the wolves. She was connected to them. Stay behind me, Lyra whispered to Rowan. The boy nodded. Kael stood beside them with his sword drawn. His eyes never left Darius. You betrayed me, Darius laughed. Do not pretend you were innocent, Your Majesty. Kael's jaw tightened. You manipulated my mind. I protected the throne. You made me reject my mate. I made you reject a woman who could destroy everything. Kael took one step forward. You lied about her. Darius smiled. I lied because I knew what would happen if you remembered. Kael froze. What would I remember? Darius looked toward Lyra. Ask your mate what happened 5 years ago. Lyra's expression changed. She knew there was another secret. Something even her mother had not told her. Kael turned toward her. What is he talking about? Lyra looked away. I do not know. Darius laughed. She knows enough. Seraphine suddenly stepped forward. Enough. The queen raised her hand. The soldier stopped. She looked directly at Lyra. "You have taken what belongs to the crown." Lyra stared at her. "You mean my son. He is the heir. He is my child. He carries the Alpha King's blood." Lyra's voice became cold. "And he carries mine." Seraphine smiled. "That is exactly why he cannot remain with you." Kael stepped between them. "You will not touch him." Seraphine looked at him. "You would choose her over the kingdom?" Kael answered without hesitation. "Yes." The word echoed through the forest. Lyra looked at him. For the first time, she saw no hesitation in his eyes. No fear, no confusion, only certainty. Seraphine's face hardened. "You have forgotten who you are." Kael lifted his sword. "No." His voice was quiet. "I finally remembered." Darius suddenly raised both hands. Dark shadows burst from the ground. The wolves screamed. Lyra felt their pain instantly. She fell to one knee. "Stop." The shadows wrapped around the wolves like chains. Kael tried to move toward her, but black magic struck him across the chest. He flew backward into the snow. "Kael." Lyra reached for him. Darius smiled. "You cannot fight this power." Lyra looked at him. "What did you do?" "Your ancestors sealed this magic beneath the royal palace. Your mother knew about it. She escaped before we could use it against her. But you have made one mistake." "What?" "You came back." Darius raised his hand. The ground cracked beneath Lyra. Dark energy surged toward her. Her mother screamed, "Lyra, run!" But Lyra could not move. The silver mark beneath her collarbone burned. The pain became unbearable. She fell to her knees. Then she heard a tiny voice. "Mother." "Rowan." Lyra opened her eyes. He was standing alone in the snow. Seraphine had reached him. Her hand was wrapped around his arm. Lyra's heart stopped. "Let him go." Seraphine smiled. "Come quietly." Kael tried to rise. "Do not touch him." Seraphine pulled Rowan closer. The boy looked terrified. Lyra felt something inside her break. Not fear, not grief. Something older. Something powerful. The wolves stopped struggling. Every white wolf lifted its head. The storm suddenly became silent. Lyra slowly stood. The silver mark across her skin spread like branches of moonlight. Her eyes changed. The green color disappeared beneath a pale silver glow. Her mother stared at her in shock. "No." Lyra turned toward her. "What?" her mother whispered. "The awakening." Darius stepped backward. For the first time, his confidence disappeared. "What did you do?" Lyra looked at him. "I did nothing." Her voice was different, deeper, stronger. "I remembered." The wolves broke their chains. One after another they rose. The dark magic shattered around them. Darius screamed and stumbled backward. Lyra lifted her hand. Every wolf in the forest answered. A massive wave of power moved through the trees. The soldiers dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Others ran. Seraphine released Rowan. The boy rushed toward Lyra. She caught him and held him against her chest. Kael pushed himself upright. He stared at Lyra. She was surrounded by silver light. Not glowing like fire. It was colder. Ancient, like moonlight reflected across frozen water. Her mother approached slowly. "You are awake." Lyra looked at her. "What am I?" Her mother touched her cheek. "The last queen." Lyra looked toward Darius. He was trying to escape. She walked toward him. Every wolf moved with her. Darius stumbled backward. "You cannot kill me." Lyra stopped. "Why not?" "I serve the crown." Lyra looked toward Kael. Kael's face was filled with disgust. "You served yourself." Darius suddenly pulled a hidden blade. He rushed toward Lyra. Kael moved first. His sword struck Darius's weapon and sent it flying. The two men fought in the snow. Darius was faster than Kael expected. He struck Kael across the shoulder. Blood spread across the black armor. Lyra felt Kael's pain. Her anger exploded. The wolves lunged, but Lyra stopped them. Let him fight. Kael looked at her. He understood. This was his betrayal to face. Darius attacked again. Kael blocked. The clash of steel echoed through the forest. Finally, Kael disarmed him. Darius fell to his knees. Kael placed the sword against his throat. "Tell me the truth." Darius laughed. "You really want the truth?" Kael's eyes narrowed. "What did you do to me?" Darius looked at Lyra. 5 years ago, she was already carrying your child. Kael froze. Lyra closed her eyes. Darius continued. "She came to the palace to tell you." Kael's face went pale. "Why do I not remember?" "Because I erased the memory." Kael stared at him. "You stole that from me." "I saved the throne." Kael's voice became almost a whisper. "You stole my son." Darius smiled. "No," he looked at Lyra. "Your son was never the only heir." Silence. Lyra's heart stopped. Kael turned toward Darius. "What does that mean?" Darius's smile widened. "The boy is only one half of the prophecy." Lyra looked at her mother. Her mother had gone pale. Darius whispered the final words. "There was another child." Lyra's eyes widened. "No." Her mother closed her eyes. Darius laughed. The second heir survived too. A terrible silence fell over the forest. Lyra held Rowan tighter. Kael stared at her, and for the first time, Lyra realized that the secret she had spent 5 years protecting was not the greatest secret of all. Somewhere beyond the mountains, another child carried their blood, and someone had been hiding that child from them since the night Lyra disappeared. For several seconds, nobody moved. The snow continued falling around them as if the entire forest had forgotten how to breathe. Lyra held Rowan against her chest while staring at Darius. His words had entered her mind like a blade. Another child. Another heir. Another life connected to the night she had lost everything. Her mother looked away. That was enough. Lyra slowly turned toward her. "You knew." Her mother closed her eyes. "Lyra, you knew there was another child. I wanted to protect you. You knew." The words came louder this time. Her mother looked at her with tears in her eyes. "Yes." Lyra felt the ground disappear beneath her. She had spent 5 years believing she had lost everything. She had believed Rowan was the only piece of that terrible night that remained. She had protected him with every breath she had taken. She had hidden him from the kingdom. She had accepted loneliness because she believed that was the price of keeping him alive. Now she was being told that another child had survived, a child who carried her blood. A child she had never held, a child she had never even known existed. "Where is my child?" Her mother's lips trembled. "I do not know." Darius laughed from where Kael held him at sword point. "You do know." Kael turned toward him. "Enough." Darius looked at Lyra. "Your mother sent the second child away before the palace could reach him." Lyra stared at her mother. "Where?" Her mother shook her head. "I cannot tell you." Lyra's face hardened. "Why?" "Because the people protecting that child would kill you if they believed you were coming to take him." Lyra felt something inside her shatter. "I am his mother." "I know." "Then how could you keep him from me?" Her mother stepped closer. "Because I knew what would happen if both heirs were together." Lyra looked down at Rowan. "What would happen?" her mother whispered. "The prophecy would awaken completely." Kael stepped forward. "What prophecy?" Her mother looked at him. "The prophecy that started this war before either of you were born." Darius smiled. "Now you are finally asking the right questions." Kael tightened his grip on the sword. "Speak." Darius looked at the surrounding wolves. "The first heir carries the blood of the Alpha King. The second carries the blood of the Wolf Queen." But when the two children stand together, the ancient power returns. Lyra frowned. That makes no sense. It does, if you know what your ancestors feared. Darius's eyes moved toward Rowan. The first child can unite the royal wolves. Then he looked at Lyra. The second can command the ancient packs. Lyra's heart began beating faster. And together? Darius smiled. They can remove the royal bloodline forever. Kael's expression changed. Darius continued. That is why the crown has hunted your family for generations. Lyra stared at him. You wanted my children. We wanted control of them. Why? Because whoever controls both heirs controls the wolves. Kael's sword pressed harder against Darius's throat. You will never touch them. Darius laughed. You still think you can protect them? Kael looked at Lyra, then at Rowan. His expression softened. I will. Lyra saw the difference in him. 5 years? Kael had stood before an entire kingdom and rejected her. Now he was standing between her family and the same people who had destroyed them. But Lyra could not forget. She could not simply erase the past because he had finally discovered the truth. Kael seemed to understand. I do not expect you to forgive me. Lyra looked at him. Good. I only want the chance to make sure you and Rowan survive. You had that chance. I know. His voice became quieter. I failed. Lyra looked away. Before she could answer, a distant horn echoed through the mountains. The wolves immediately raised their heads. Her mother went pale. That is not the royal army. Kael looked toward the northern ridge. What is it? His mother-in-law stared into the snow. The second army. Lyra's heart tightened. What second army? Her mother whispered. The ancient pack. A deep howl rolled across the mountains. Then another. Then dozens. The snow beneath their feet began to tremble. Trees shook. Birds fled from the branches. The 12 white wolves surrounding Lyra suddenly lowered their heads, not toward Lyra, toward the northern mountains. Kael looked at them. They are afraid. Lyra felt the same fear moving through their minds, but beneath it was something else. Recognition. Someone was coming. Someone powerful. Someone connected to the second heir. Darius smiled. You are too late. Kael turned toward him. What did you do? Darius said nothing. Then an arrow flew through the trees. It struck the ground beside Lyra. A black ribbon was tied around its shaft. Her mother saw it and gasped. They found him. Lyra's blood froze. Who? Her mother looked toward the mountains. The people who raised your second child. Lyra tightened her arms around Rowan. We are going after him. Her mother grabbed her wrist. No. Lyra pulled free. I have already lost 5 years. You do not understand. I understand enough. Her mother shook her head. If you go north, you may never come back. Lyra looked at Rowan, then at Kael, then at the wolves. I am done letting other people decide what happens to my children. Kael stepped beside her. I am coming. Lyra looked at him. You may not. I am not asking permission. For the first time, a faint smile touched Lyra's lips. It disappeared almost immediately. You are still arrogant. Kael almost smiled. I am still the Alpha King. You are also the man who rejected me. His smile vanished. That too. A sudden cry came from the forest. Everyone turned. Rowan had disappeared. Lyra's heart stopped. Rowan. She ran toward the trees. Kael followed. The wolves scattered. Snow covered the ground. There were small footprints leading toward the ridge. Then they stopped. Lyra dropped to her knees. A piece of Rowan's silver pendant lay in the snow. Her hands began shaking. No. Kael knelt beside her. Lyra. She looked at him with terror in her eyes. They took him. A shadow moved between the trees. Lyra stood. Who? The answer came from the darkness. A child's voice. Mother. Lyra froze. The voice sounded exactly like Rowan. She stepped forward. Rowan. A small figure appeared between the trees. Lyra's heart leaped. Then she stopped. Something was wrong. The child looked like Rowan. The same dark hair, the same pale face, the same emerald eyes. But there was one difference. He was wearing a black crown. Kael stepped forward. Who are you? The child stared at him, then looked at Lyra. His lips curved into a small smile. Mother. Lyra could not breathe. Behind the child came a tall woman dressed in black. She carried a silver blade. She looked directly at Lyra. Then she spoke. You finally found your second son. Lyra stared at the child. Her knees weakened. 2 children. 2 heirs. 2 lives stolen from her. But before she could move, the woman raised the blade. If you want him alive, you will come with us. Kael stepped forward. Put the weapon down. The woman smiled. You still do not understand. She looked at Lyra. The second heir is not a prisoner. Lyra stared at her. Then what is he? The woman answered with a whisper. He is the one who has been waiting to destroy the throne. The wolves began to howl, and somewhere deep inside the mountain another voice awakened. A voice that sounded exactly like Lyra. But it was not hers. Lyra stared at the child standing beneath the black crown and felt the world tilt beneath her feet. He looked so much like Rowan that her heart refused to accept what her eyes were seeing. The same dark hair, the same delicate face, the same emerald eyes. Yet there was something different in his expression. Rowan carried warmth even when he was frightened. This child carried silence. His gaze was far too calm for a boy standing in the middle of an ancient forest surrounded by armed strangers. Lyra took one careful step forward. My son. The child did not move. The woman behind him tightened her grip on the silver blade. Do not come closer. Lyra stopped. Please. The word escaped her before she could control it. The woman studied her. You waited 5 years to say that. Lyra's chest tightened. I did not know. I know. Then let me take him. You cannot. Why? The woman looked toward Kael. Because the moment he enters the royal bloodline, he becomes a weapon. Kael's expression hardened. He is a child. The woman laughed softly. So was the Alpha King when his family decided he was useful. Kael stepped forward. The woman raised her blade. One more step and the boy dies. Kael stopped. Lyra looked at him. For once, the Alpha King obeyed without argument. The child suddenly looked at Lyra. His lips moved. Mother. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Yes. The child took one step toward her. The woman tried to hold him back. He pulled away. She is my mother. The words were quiet, but the forest seemed to hear them. Lyra felt something explode inside her chest. She reached out. The child ran into her arms. She dropped to her knees and held him tightly. He was cold. Far too cold. His small hands clung to her cloak as though he had been waiting years for this moment. I am sorry. Lyra kissed his hair. I am so sorry. The child began crying. I thought you forgot me. Lyra closed her eyes. Never. Kael stood a few steps away watching them. His face broke. He had lost 5 years with Rowan. Now he was looking at another child he had never known existed. He slowly lowered his sword. What is his name? The child looked at him. Elias. Kael whispered the name. Elias, the boy studied him. Are you my father? Kael could not answer immediately. His eyes filled with tears. Yes. Elias looked at Lyra, then back at Kael. Why did you leave? Kael swallowed. Because I was lied to. Elias frowned. By who? Kael looked toward the woman. By people who wanted us apart. The woman lowered her blade. Her expression had changed. She looked exhausted. They are coming, Lyra turned. Who? The royal army. Kael's eyes hardened. How far? Minutes. The woman looked toward the southern ridge. And Darius is not leading them. Kael frowned. Then who is? She looked at him. Seraphine. Lyra's body went cold. The wolves began growling. A distant horn echoed through the forest, then another. Kael looked at Lyra. We have to move. Lyra nodded. The ancient pack gathered around them. They began climbing toward the mountain fortress where the second heir had been protected. The journey was brutal. Snow buried the narrow paths. Ice covered the rocks. The wind became strong enough to knock Lyra sideways. She carried Elias for part of the journey while Kael carried Rowan. The sight of the Alpha King carrying his son through the snow would have shocked the entire kingdom. But Lyra did not look at him. She was focused on the fortress ahead. When they reached it, the massive stone doors opened. Inside were hundreds of wolves. Not ordinary wolves, ancient wolves. Their fur was white and silver. Their eyes were pale blue. They lowered their heads when Lyra entered. Elias stepped beside her. Rowan stood on her other side. The moment the brothers touched hands, the entire fortress shook. A deep sound rolled through the mountain. The wolves dropped to the ground. Lyra felt a pressure against her chest. Her mother suddenly appeared behind her. No. Lyra turned. What is happening? Her mother looked at the boys. The prophecy has begun. The boys' silver marks appeared at the same time. Rowan's mark formed over his heart. Elias's mark appeared across his palm. Lyra looked at them. What do we do? Her mother whispered. Keep them together. The fortress doors exploded. Royal soldiers poured inside. At the front stood Seraphine. She was no longer wearing the gentle expression of a queen. Her face was cold. Her eyes were filled with hatred. She looked at Lyra. You should have stayed hidden. Lyra stepped forward. You should have left my children alone. Seraphine laughed. Your children belong to the kingdom. Kael moved beside Lyra. They belong to their mother. Seraphine looked at him with disbelief. You would destroy your own throne for her? Kael answered without hesitation. I would destroy the throne before I let you hurt them. Seraphine raised her hand. The soldiers attacked. The ancient wolves surged forward. The fortress became a storm of fur and steel. Lyra felt every movement. She could sense danger before it happened. She turned her head just before a soldier struck from behind. Her hand rose. The man was thrown backward by an invisible force. She stared at her own fingers. Her mother shouted, Do not fight the wolves. Lyra understood. She closed her eyes. Instead of commanding them, she opened herself to them. The wolves moved as one. Every attack became coordinated. Every soldier was disarmed. The royal army began retreating. Seraphine screamed, Kill the boys! Kael's face changed. He rushed toward the attackers. Lyra moved faster. She stood between the soldiers and her sons. The silver mark beneath her skin blazed. The entire fortress shook. Every wolf stopped. Then they bowed. Not to Lyra, to the two boys. Seraphine's face went white. No. Darius suddenly appeared behind her. He was bleeding. His clothes were torn, but he was smiling. Kael saw him. You survived. Darius looked at the children. I was never trying to kill them. Lyra stared at him. Then what do you want? Darius pointed toward Elias. He is the key. Elias stepped backward. Lyra moved in front of him. Darius smiled. When the two heirs unite, the ancient throne awakens. Kael frowned. What throne? Darius looked toward the floor. The stone beneath the fortress began cracking. A golden symbol appeared. Lyra recognized it from her mother's journal. The symbol of the first Wolf Queen, her mother whispered. The throne beneath the mountain. Darius laughed. You finally understand. The entire fortress began shaking. A staircase opened beneath the floor. Ancient light rose from the darkness, and from somewhere below came a voice. A woman's voice. A voice Lyra had heard before. It sounded exactly like her. Come to me! Lyra froze. Her mother grabbed her arm. Do not go down there. Lyra looked at the staircase. The voice came again. Lyra. Her blood turned cold. She knew that voice. It was her own voice, but it was older, angrier, and it was calling her by name. Elias suddenly grabbed her hand. Mother. Rowan took her other hand. Kael stepped beside them. Together they stood before the opening. Then the ancient throne beneath the mountain began to rise, and sitting upon it was a woman who looked exactly like Lyra.